Hello and welcome back to Koala Moon, children's bedtime stories and meditations designed to make bedtime a dream. This is Pirate Parrots by Gillian Rogerson, inspired by Axie. Polly Silverbeak stood on the deck of her ship, her captain's hat firmly in place. She gazed at the vast blue ocean that surrounded the ship. Endless adventures were waiting out there, lands to explore and new friends to meet. Polly was a parrot with soft blue feathers and a striking silver beak. She was a kind-hearted captain who cared deeply for her crew of pirate parrots. Polly had been born on board a pirate ship, and as soon as she'd made her way out of her shell, she had flown over to the captain and settled on his shoulder. Captain Barnacle was a wise man, and when he laid eyes on the baby parrot, he saw adventure in her little eyes and knew she would make an excellent companion for him. Polly had a permanent place on his shoulder. They sailed the 7 seas together, and Captain Barnacle taught Polly everything he knew about sailing and how to manage a crew. When it came time for Captain Barnacle to retire, he used some of his gold coins to buy a small ship for Polly. He knew she wasn't ready to settle down yet, and that she had many adventures ahead of her. Polly was touched by his kindness and promised to visit Captain Barnacle often and tell him about her journeys. Captain Polly Silverbeak soon had a crew on board her ship, and together they had many wonderful adventures around the world. They became experts at finding lost items, and they always returned the items to their owners. Things had been quiet on board the ship, and Polly and her crewmates hadn't been on an adventure in quite some time. But that didn't concern the captain, for she knew an adventure would arrive at exactly the right time and in the right place. Polly continued gazing at the calm blue ocean and wondered where they should head next. Perhaps they could call on the friends they had made over the years and share tales of adventures. Just as Polly was pondering what to do, a call came out from a young green parrot at the far side of the ship. The parrot was called Elvis, and he had joined the crew a few months ago. He was a happy parrot, and he loved singing and dancing. His cheerful antics made everyone smile. He also had excellent eyesight, and often saw land on the horizon that no one else had spotted. Captain Silverbeak flew over to Elvis and asked if he had seen something on the horizon. Elvis waved his wing at a bottle bobbing in the water. He said, "Look at that bottle, Captain. It's got a rolled-up piece of paper inside it." His emerald green eyes twinkled in excitement. "It could be a treasure map. Shall I swoop over and collect it?" Polly appreciated his eagerness, but knew from experience that bobbing bottles in the ocean was sometimes surprisingly heavy, and she didn't want the young parrot to struggle with it. She told Elvis she would collect the bottle and bring it back to the ship. She thanked Elvis for spotting it and asked him to gather the crew together so that they could all see what was on the paper. "Aye, aye, Captain," Elvis replied with a winged salute. Captain Polly Silverbeak flew towards the bottle and swiftly plucked it from the water. She returned to the ship where her crew were already gathered on the deck. The captain pulled the cork out of the bottle, tipped the paper onto the deck and unrolled it. It was a treasure map, but not a full one. It was only part of a map. But that didn't stop the pirate parrots from squawking with excitement. Captain Silverbeak said to her crew, "Well, We've never had part of a map before, but we all like a challenge. Are you ready for a new adventure? The parrots fluffed their feathers eagerly and said yes. Captain Silverbeak examined the map more closely. There was a picture of an island on it. She didn't recognize the shape of the island, but when she looked closer, she saw lots of trees on it. There was something peculiar about one of the trees. It was being hugged by a bear. As soon as she saw that image, Captain Silverbeak started laughing. She now knew exactly where the island was, and she knew who the bear was. The captain said, "Oh, this bear is Charlie McCuddles. He's a professional tree hugger. I met him once at a party on board a ship near the west coast of Africa. He told me where he lived and invited me to visit him sometime." Young Elvis asked what a professional tree hugger was. "Just like it sounds," the captain replied with a smile. "Charlie loves nature, and he says there's something very soothing about hugging a tree. I've never tried it, but when we visit him, we could all give it a go and see what we think. It's good to try new things." She frowned as she looked at the map again. "I've no idea why he's on this map, though, but I am sure we'll find out." She gave the coordinates of Charlie's Island to crew member Scarlet Macaw and told her to set sail. "Aye, aye, Captain," Scarlet replied. She flew over to the ship's wheel and turned the ship in a southerly direction. They arrived at the island a while later. The ship dropped anchor, and the captain took to the air and led a small party of crew members towards the tree-covered island. From the air, Captain Silverbeak soon spotted her friend Charlie. He had his arms wrapped around a tree. A soft smile was on his calm-looking face. When he saw Polly flying towards him, he let go of the tree and opened his arms in welcome. Polly flew into his soft embrace and said it was good to see him again. She introduced her crew and explained why they were there. She took the section of the map from under her hat and showed it to the bear. Charlie nodded and said, "I know that tree well. It's one of my favourites to hug. If you'd like to follow me, I'll take you to it. If you don't mind, I'd like to hug some trees along the way. Do feel free to hug some too. It's a very relaxing experience." He gave them a peaceful smile of contentment. Charlie McCuddles led the parrots through the forest. He stopped now and again to hug a tree. The pirate parrots did so too, and were pleasantly surprised to find it did make them feel very relaxed. They reached the tree that was on the map, a huge oak tree, with branches that reached out and touched the surrounding trees as though holding hands with them. Charlie and the parrots stopped in front of the oak tree and studied it. Polly flew through its branches to see if another part of the treasure map was tucked in one of them. Alas, she didn't find anything. She returned to the others and said she didn't know where else to look. In his deep, calm voice, Charlie said, "My dear friend, you must still your mind and see if you can find the answer inside you." Polly smiled at his words. She stilled her mind, and within 5 seconds, an idea came to her. She had noticed there were several holes in the trunk of the tree, places where small animals might snuggle into at night time. She said, "I think the map is inside the tree. Elvis, you're the smallest. Would you go into those holes and have a look around them, please?" In a blur of green feathers, the young parrot flew into the first hole. They heard him humming happily to himself. Elvis quickly found the paper, and he took it to the captain. Captain Silverback looked at the drawing on the paper. There was another island on it, and this time it was in the shape of a tree. She said, "This is the Isle of 4 Seasons. I've heard of it, but I've never been there. I do know where it is, though. Let's return to the ship and set sail again." She thanked Charlie for his help, gave him another feathery cuddle, and said she would return to let him know how their quest had gone. The captain and her crew flew back to their ship and headed off in a northwesterly direction. The Isle of 4 Seasons came into view. As they got closer, young Elvis asked if they would be flying over the island. Captain Silverbeak replied, "No, not this time. According to what I've heard about this island, we have to sail through the middle of it. I'm going to need your help again, Elvis. There will be a narrow opening somewhere in the cliffs of the island, and that's where we need to head. I'd like you to look out for that opening, please. It will be a bit of a squeeze to sail through the opening, but I'm sure we'll manage." Young Elvis flew to the lookout area at the top of a mast and studied the island as they sailed closer to it. His amazing eyesight didn't let the captain down, and he noticed a slim opening in some white cliffs on the southern part of the island. He called out an announcement to the captain below. With directions coming from Elvis on his post and the incredible steering skills of Scarlet Macaw, the pirate parrot ship sailed smoothly through the gap in the cliffs. They sailed slowly through the gap and came into a huge cavern with a sparkling white crystal roof. In a hushed voice, Captain Silverbeak said to her crew, "It is said that when a ship sails through this island, the crew on board will get to see 4 seasons, one straight after the other. I'm not sure what this has got to do with our map yet, but let's enjoy the experience and see what happens." The ship sailed on smoothly through the cavern. The crystal ceiling turned a pale shade of blue, and fluffy clouds could be seen moving within the crystals. A warm, spring-like air drifted over the parrots, and the sweet song of birds gently echoed around the cavern. The ship began to change. Spring flowers magically bloomed on the wooden posts and between gaps in the wooden floor. Daffodils and tulips swayed in the gentle wind and filled it with the sweet fragrance of spring. Captain Silverbeak smiled at the look of joy on the faces of her crew as they watched more flowers appear on the ship. The ship sailed on smoothly through the cavern. The crystal roof turned a brighter blue, and the clouds disappeared. Images of swooping summer birds now moved smoothly through the crystals. The air turned warmer, and some of the crew removed their jackets. The ship changed again. The spring flowers transformed into roses and sunflowers. Their fragrance mingled with the fading scent of the spring blooms and created a relaxing aroma that enveloped the parrots in a soothing, scented hug. The ship sailed on smoothly through the cavern. Big, fluffy clouds drifted along inside the crystal ceiling. Images of falling rain appeared next to the clouds, and the light drumbeat of rain filled the cavern. The rain swiftly disappeared, and a crystal rainbow filled the ceiling. The summer flowers were replaced by autumn flowers. Leaves appeared on posts and wooden beams. As the ship glided through the water, the leaves turned colour from green to yellow, from yellow to deep red, and from red to golden brown. The leaves fell softly onto the deck of the ship, rustling slightly in the breeze. The ship sailed on smoothly through the cavern. The crystal ceiling turned as white as snow. Tiny snowflakes drifted from crystal to crystal. The air turned cooler, and jackets were put back on. Real snow fell gently from the ceiling and covered the ship and the parrots in a light dusting of snowflakes. Some of the parrots had never seen snow before and held their feathers out to catch the flakes. They gazed at the snow in wonder. Captain Silverbeak was enjoying the journey through the Isle of Four Seasons, and seeing the happiness on the faces of her crew made it even more special. The ship sailed smoothly out of the cavern and back into the open ocean. The covering of snow melted and took the fallen autumn leaves with it. Captain Silverbeak looked over her shoulder at the island they had just left. The map from Charlie McCuddles' island had led them to it, but where was the next part of the treasure map? Something fluttered onto her hat. She reached for it, thinking it was an autumn leaf that had been left behind. It was a leaf, but as it lay on the captain's wing, it magically changed into the next part of the map. The captain studied the drawing on the third part of the map. There was another island on it, and it was one she knew well. Captain Silverbeak showed the map to her crew. Some of the parrots smiled in recognition. The captain explained that it was the island of mountain gorillas. She'd visited the gorillas many times. They were very friendly and always welcomed new visitors. Scarlet Macaw had also been to the island before and knew the way well. She steered the ship in a south by southeast direction, and off they sailed. On the way, Captain Silverbeak placed the three sections of the map on a table and pushed them towards each other like pieces of a jigsaw. They were a perfect fit. Young Elvis stood at her side and looked at the map. "Captain, who do you think made this map? And will there be treasure at the end of it?" Captain Silverbeak replied, "I don't know who made this map, or why it ended up near our ship. Maybe that will be a mystery that we'll never solve. As to whether there is treasure at the end of our travels, we can only wait and see. But if there isn't any treasure, it doesn't matter, because I've had a fun journey so far. And sometimes the journey is the best part of the experience." Elvis nodded and said he was enjoying the journey too. His eyes sparkled with glee, and he added, "I still hope we find some treasure, though." The ship sailed across the blue ocean. The island of mountain gorillas appeared on the horizon. When they got close enough, the captain gathered her crew together and invited them all to fly with her to the mountain village where the gorillas lived. They could spend some time with the gorillas, and she would try to work out where the last part of the map was. Captain Polly Silverbeak led her crew across the water and up into the mountains. They landed in the center of the village and were soon surrounded by groups of smiling gorillas. The pirate parrots were welcomed warmly to the village, and seemingly out of nowhere, drink and food were produced. The parrots were invited to rest for a while and chat with the gorillas. Captain Silverbeak left her crew to their well-deserved rest and went in search of a certain gorilla who was a good friend of hers. He had lived in the village all his life, and if anyone knew where a puzzling section of a map was, it would be him. She flew over to the far side of the village and stopped outside Grandpa Gus's grocery store. She went inside and saw an elderly gorilla standing behind the counter with a pair of spectacles perched on the end of his nose. Her heart filled with joy at seeing her friend again. Grandpa Gus broke into a huge smile when he saw her, and he held his arms out. The captain flew over to him and landed in his hug. Grandpa Gus released her and said, "Polly, what a lovely surprise. It's so good to see you again. I want to know everything you've been up to since we last met." He stopped talking and gave her a long look. "You've got something to ask me, haven't you? Go ahead. I'm not sure I'll be able to help you, but I'll do my best." Captain Silverbeak flew down to the counter, took the sections of the map from her hat, and placed them on the table. She told Gus about her journey so far and how it had led to his island. Did he know where the missing piece could be? Grandpa Gus scratched his head. "I'm afraid I don't, Polly. Oh, I wish I did. Let me have a think about who might know where it could be, if it's here at all." His furry forehead wrinkled in concentration, and he paced back and forth behind the counter. He stopped pacing and clicked his fingers. "Polly, I know who you should ask. My great-great-grandson, Jeremiah. He loves searching for buried items on the beach. You wouldn't believe the items he finds there. I don't recall him mentioning part of a map, but that doesn't mean he's never found one. Let me call him for you." The gorilla let out a low whistle. A few moments later, a young gorilla appeared in the doorway of the shop with a canvas bag slung over his shoulder. He had the same kind eyes as his great-great-grandpa. Gus introduced Jeremiah to Polly and showed him the partly completed map. The hugest of smiles grew across Jeremiah's face. He took the bag off his shoulder and put his hand inside it. Very carefully, he brought out a piece of paper and placed it next to the others on the table. He pushed it towards them. It was a perfect fit. And now the map was complete. Polly shook her head in disbelief and asked how he had found it. The young gorilla blushed a little and said, "I saw your ship sailing towards our island a little while ago and wondered who was coming to visit us. I was so busy staring at your ship that I didn't watch where I was going and I tripped over a rock. As I lay there in the sand, I noticed there was a bit of paper sticking out beneath the rock. I took it out, saw what it was, and came here to ask my great-great-grandpa if he knew anything about it." The two gorillas and the parrot started laughing at the same time, not quite believing what had just happened. They looked closely at the completed map and tried to make sense of it. Grandpa Gus and Captain Polly Silverbeak spotted something on the final section of the map. They looked at each other, their eyes wide in disbelief. Polly said, "It can't be. I thought it was a legend, passed on down through the ages, just a story and not at all real." Grandpa Gus said he had thought the same thing. He pointed to the last part of the map. "But there it is. So it must be real. I've been to this island a few times, and I know you have too. I never suspected that was hidden there." Jeremiah asked what they were talking about. At the same time, Polly and Gus said, "The magical jar of flyaway wishes." Jeremiah said he'd heard about the jar in his history lessons, but he didn't know it was a real thing. Polly smiled and said, "I don't know why this map came to me today, but I do know where I'm going next." She reached for the map, expecting it to be in 4 parts, but it had somehow become one whole piece of paper again. Polly said goodbye to her gorilla friends and promised to come back after her adventure. Captain Silverbeak collected her crew and showed them the last piece of the puzzle. They were as amazed as she had been and were eager to search for the magical jar of flyaway wishes. The pirate parrots thanked the gorillas for their kindness and flew back to the ship. The ship turned in a northerly direction and sailed away. The parrots arrived at the last island on the map. They followed the trail through a jungle, along a river, and over a hill. They found the jar of flyaway wishes hidden behind a waterfall. It appeared to be empty, but the parrots knew otherwise. The jar was collected, admired by the parrots, and then taken back to the ship. Like many others, Captain Silverbeak was aware of the legend surrounding the jar and what needed to happen once the jar was found. As the sun dipped below the horizon and the sky turned a darker blue, she stood on the deck with her crew and slowly took the lid off the jar. Out of the empty jar came golden heart-shaped stars that twinkled and glimmered. Their glittering wings flapped gently, and a tinkling sound came from them. The crew were captivated by the sight of the fluttering wishes. Captain Silverbeak remembered the words in the legend and said softly, "Fly away, wishes. Fly around the world. Fly to those who need you. And fly to those who think they don't." The wishes fluttered some more in front of the parrots and then flew away in all directions. Each parrot was delighted to see that a golden wish had landed on them. They tucked the wish in their feathers, ready to be used when needed. Captain Polly Silverbeak looked at the golden wish on her wing. She lifted her wing closer and whispered, "Fly away, wish." The wish took to the sky and flew away. Young Elvis asked why she hadn't used her wish. The captain looked around at her crew and their smiling faces. She gazed at the vast ocean around them. In her imagination, she saw the endless adventures that lay before her and her beloved parrot friends. She told Elvis she didn't need the wish because she already had everything her heart desired. She took the young parrot under her wing. They watched the sky turn darker together and smiled when twinkling stars appeared. It was soon time for the pirate parrots to head to their beds. Captain Polly Silverbeak went to her room, took off her hat, and placed it on the bedside table. What an adventure she'd had that day. She snuggled down in her soft, cozy bed, smiled gently, and fell asleep. We're drifting towards dreams now, the happiest, loveliest dreams you've ever dreamt. We're calm and cozy. Your breathing is relaxed and you can feel that lovely weight of the blanket keeping you safe and warm. Aren't you comfy? You are so warm and cozy, so sleepy. As you drift into dreams, count all the things you're grateful for. Let yourself fill up with all of the little moments that made you smile today. See the faces of the people that made you laugh. Think of the things that challenged you. Think of the things you learned and the practice that meant you'll be a little bit better tomorrow than you were today. Think about how warm and cozy and sleepy you are here in your bed. What a day you had. Wonderful things lie ahead for you too. You will have wonderful adventures tomorrow and the next day and the one after that. The whole world is waiting for you. But there's no rush. There's nothing more to do today. All that's left for today is rest, deep, cozy sleep. The most beautiful of dreams are waiting for you now. That's why you're drifting off, gently, into dreamland. So keep breathing slowly. Let yourself get toasty warm. Let your eyelids stay heavy. And know that you are safe. Remember that you are smart. You are brave. You are kind. And you are loved. Think it to yourself. I am smart. I am brave. I am kind. I am loved. You are a dream. When tomorrow comes, you'll face it with a smile, because you are smart, brave, kind and loved. Because you are you. Uniquely, wonderfully you. What kind of dream are you drifting towards tonight? You can dream however you want, because your imagination is as wide as the universe. What will you find in tonight's dream? Maybe you'll see your favourite characters. Is that Hector and Sunny over there? Maybe you'll visit the moon, where there's mice eating cheese in the craters. Maybe you'll walk through Sleepy Forest, where Koko the koala is strumming his pink ukulele on the banks of Sleepy River. Let your imagination take you away. Your dreams are all yours, and you deserve the sweetest dreams of all, because you are brave, you are kind, and you are loved. You are brave, you are kind, and you are loved, and you are wonderfully, uniquely you. You are a dream, and it's time to sleep, tucked up in your bed. Breathe slowly and melt into your bed. Isn't it warm and soft and cozy? It's time to rest. Take deep breaths in and out and let yourself relax as you say goodbye to the day. Let your body get even heavier. Let your whole body go floppy. Drift deeper into sleep with every breath and say goodnight. Remember, tomorrow will be a good day because you have a big heart. You are a good friend. You believe in yourself. You know there's nothing better to be than yourself. It's okay to get things wrong. It's okay to ask for help. You can do whatever you set your mind to. Be proud to be different. Be proud of your achievements. Be proud of yourself. You are a good learner. You are a good listener. You are a good example to others. You are valued. You are loved. You are sleepy. So drift off now, little one. Let the dreams take over. As you sleep, let your dreams take you to magical lands and faraway places. Remember, there's no room for worries in your dreams, just magic. It's a magic place where anything can happen, anything you want. It's a place of positivity and light. Let positivity soak into you and fill you up. Imagine it as a golden light traveling from the tips of your toes to the top of your head. Imagine that wherever the light touches you fills with happiness. Imagine that the light makes you feel calm. You're wrapped in a warm, cozy glow within your soft, toasty blanket. Isn't that nice? You are safe, tucked up tight. So sleep soundly all through the night. Sweet dreams.